Maybe you have a similar story. I couldn't find it to bring here today, but I had this child's drawing on my fridge. And it was just scribbled people, I think, in multiple colors. And I kept it on my fridge for like 6 or 7 years. And not because it isn't a special work of art, right? But because it takes me back to a particular family gathering in Texas where one of my cousin's daughters and I had this moment, and it was delightful. And then as I left, she came running to me with this image so that I would take it with her, or take it with me, right? And now, every time I see that image, it takes me back to family and to her. And she is now in college, and she is not an art major. And I slipped that drawing in my to keep file at some point. The fridge got a little too full. And I think that drawing is just beautiful. Not because of any of the image itself, but because of who and what it represents to me. And that's the thing about beauty, isn't it? It is in the eye of the beholder. Beauty is part of our lives, part of our world. It is all around us, if we only glimpse it for the grace that it is. And yet in our culture, we often forget that beauty is free and prevalent and accessible. Instead, we as a culture seem to believe that beauty is very prescribed and a very privileged commodity. For example, beauty in our society is associated with the youth and the young. Says this room. Beauty in our society, as we all know, is associated with those who are thin and have lighter skin. Beauty in our society is an industry that makes a fortune, literally a fortune, selling us products because they tell us that our faces and our hair and our bodies need some work, or a lot of work. Beauty in our society is also associated with experts in music and art rather than in the process of creating itself. Beauty in our society is reserved for those with money, as in people who can afford to purchase such beauty products and have the time to implement them in their schedules. Beauty in neighborhoods trends towards high economic places as well. The more money a zip code has, statistically, the more trees it has. The more trees, the more literal nature. The more trees, the more benefits for one's health and one's spirits, and the list goes on and on. Beauty in our society is associated with status and wealth. So then, is beauty in the eye of the beholder? Judas did not see beauty at the table. He witnessed waste. Poor Judas, forever tied to his failures and the stories that retell about him. But today's story is full of anxiety, and I suspect that Judas was not the only one feeling the stress. Our passage takes place immediately after the high priests have called for Jesus' arrest. Right before Jesus heads into Jerusalem, which we know as Palm Sunday. The wolves are circling. The tension is building. People are pressing in, wanting Jesus to do something. And as we can tell by his words, Jesus is keenly aware of just how much he has left to do and how little time he has left to do it. The urgency is palatable. And perhaps this is a feeling, a situation some of us can understand or at least appreciate. Anyone else here feel like we're in an urgent moment? Amen? Anyone else feel like it's time for somebody to do something? Amen? Yeah. So it's not hard to imagine that Jesus and everyone at that table is feeling anxiety. He knows that his friend is about to betray him. He knows the rest of them will abandon him. In the Gospel of John, it's clear that Jesus knows that he is going to die. and he's sitting at dinner with all of his friends, and he's distracted with all that has been lost, all that he still has to do. And the disciples around that table would have been feeling that strain as well. They were already looking over their shoulders and wondering how long before the Romans caught up to Jesus and possibly to them. We can imagine that the conversation that night might have been difficult, stilted even, because everyone was so anxious and afraid. And then one woman, Mary, the sister of Martha and Lazarus, decides that more is needed. She too knows that Jesus is likely to die, and she brings out the perfumed oils meant for burial, and she brings out enough for a king and worth almost a year's wages. And at a time when many of us might be tempted to hide in darkness or erupt with emotions, Mary offers her life's savings in a flagrant, fragrant honoring. And she bathes Jesus in a scent that will stay on his skin for the next few days until his death. And while Jesus breathes in the scented oil, there is beauty. And in this gift, this luxurious scent, and the ways that Mary tries to take care of him, it is exquisitely beautiful, with multiple forms of sacrifice, friendship, bodily affirmation, grief, and overwhelming love. Jesus receives Mary's gift in the spirit in which it is given. Judas cannot comprehend. It reminds me of a passage by the poet and theologian John O'Donohue, who puts it like this: "What you encounter, recognize, or discover depends to a large degree on the quality of your approach. When we approach with reverence, great things decide to approach us. Our real life comes to the surface, and its light awakens the concealed beauty in things. When we walk on the earth with reverence, beauty will decide to trust us. The rushed heart and arrogant mind lack the gentleness and patience to enter that embrace." Mary is preparing herself and Jesus for death. She approaches him and the situation with love, respect, reverence. And Jesus receives her and her gift and allows the beauty of their moments to fill his last good hours on the earth. And if John O'Donohue is correct or even onto something, then beauty is truly in the eyes of the one who beholds, who lives with reverence and openness and invites God to show up, even and especially in moments that seem anxious and dark. Friends, beauty is a part of our world. It is a gift. We perceive beauty when we learn how to perceive, and God's grace becomes evidence and shows up. Friends, we are fearfully and wonderfully made. We are made to appreciate and respond positively to beauty all around us, to God's light and love all around us. We do not need to be rich or young or even out of doors to experience and fill this need. Neither do we need to wait. So may your reverence for all of the world lead you to experience beauty regularly. May you bring gifts and heap them on your friends when they are in dark places. And may nothing, not trials or anxiety or selfish people, keep you from connecting with the holy and all that God is doing in our world. So may it be.